Welcome, everyone. We begin today with an apology. I would like to apologize to the audience, which is populated with many different fan bases, for that absolutely ugly San Francisco 49ers t-shirt you're wearing, although I will say it does look great on you.
That's right. No free bowl of soup either with it. They couldn't give me a bowl of soup even.
All right. Training camp over for the Penn State football team. They went in Beaver Stadium last night. Today's the first day of classes. So now they're making the transition from camp, and will start their game week preparations this week. They'll get some extra West Virginia practices in before this week is out. They will eventually break into travel team, scout team. Just because you are on the scout team does not mean you cannot make the travel team at some point. All right, so that always has to be kept in mind because it's a constant competition every single week. And so camp is now done, and I would say that when James talks about it, you'll find he found it to be a very productive camp. This has been the competition has been between offense and defense as close as I've seen it. The depth is there. Penn State's a minimum of 2 deep at every position, which is a big plus. And so now you move forward. I'm going to say potentially, let's just say potentially. Let's see. 8, 3, 11, 14, 15. I'd say as many as 23 or 24 guys could play on offense out of the gate. Depending, maybe 25. And then on defense, let's say 9, 6, 15. Let's see. I'd say maybe it's between 23 and 26 going to end up playing on defense. And I'm talking about meaningful reps. I'm not talking about mop-up in the fourth quarter. So you're talking about a team that could play as many as, in meaningful reps, as many as 50 guys during a game. And, again, we've talked about what depth can mean. And it's obvious what depth means when it comes to injuries, so I don't have to bring that up. But it means a lot in terms of how fresh your team is in the fourth quarter. Now, you do get, when you get to games where you know, I mean, you go into every game thinking it's no matter what the game is. I don't care if it's West Virginia, Delaware. When you're a team, you don't slough off any game. You need to go out and take care of business and be precise. Because, look, you're just trying to get through each one of them. And I know, and again, as a fan, you can do that. And I completely respect that. Every fan can sit there and go, oh, that'll be easy. That won't be tough. That'll be a tougher game. And I totally get it. You're a fan. You can afford to do that. That's the fun of it. If you're a coach or a player, you can't. You do that, you're in deep trouble. The opening week, which is this week, I mean, when Navy Notre Dame, I feel like, is the headliner in Ireland.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a week where I'm going to watch college football, but there's nothing out there that's appetizing. How about that?
Yeah, I think high school football used to have the old
Friday.
Yeah, that starts Friday. You used to have the old week 0 where not every team played.
Right.
And it could be called week 0 for that exact reason. I think in college football, this is basically week 0. I think when you look at it, really, not a lot of intriguing matchups. Not everybody plays. High school, it's totally different now because everybody plays week 1. It's week 1 anymore. There's no such thing as week 0. And the season ends a week earlier for the last 5 or 6 years. But
right, sure.
For college football, yeah, I just think when you look at week 1, the true week 1 is probably next week. I think this is kind of the intro to the season. Where do the games count? Of course they do. But I think for me, looking at it, you're absolutely right. Navy Notre Dame being the headliner, great for TV. Anybody's going to, and Notre Dame's going to, they don't draw the ratings they used to draw. But I think they're going to still, obviously they still draw to an extent. So that's going to be great. But In terms of a quality of a game, yeah, I don't really see anything great this week. I'll watch it for the sake of watching it.
Notre Dame's ratings are pretty much like anybody else's.
Yeah.
In that they'll draw higher because of their name, but they don't get the big rating, like the really big rating, unless they're playing an opponent that the fans are intrigued about. Navy is not an intriguing game.
No. No, they went, and even you go back years past, they went, 40-something years without beating them for a while there.
Right, exactly. They went all those since Roger Staubach did it. But it's it is something that it's just a whet your appetite weekend. I'll never forget. It was a year Cal played. Oh, who the heck was it? It was in Australia, right? It was, I don't know how many years
that.
ago.
Yeah, I don't.
Cal played the opening game in Australia against, I can't remember who.
Huh. I don't remember that. It sounds familiar, but I don't remember entirely.
And I had no interest in like the game, but I watched the game because it was the first game.
Yeah, the first game, exactly.
So I watched it because it was the. I thought, hey, I'll watch this. I don't even think the announcers made the trip. Seriously,
and that was obviously pre-pandemic.
Yeah, it was pre-pandemic. Yeah. The heck did they play? It may have been like Arizona State or something like that, or Arizona, or they played the game in Sydney, Melbourne, something like that. I know you're looking it up.
Yeah, the internet's failing me at the moment. But
oh, it's slow here today.
It is.
My goodness.
It is.
But hey, it's a fun time of the year, unless you're a Yankees fan, and
they can't even get the calls.
Well, he was out.
He was out.
He was out. Oh. He slid right into
the tag.
Yeah, he's out. I mean, that's to me. The
funniest part though is they called him safe.
Right, they called him safe. And then looked at the replay, and because
call confirmed. Right, in the replay.
Yeah. And when Aaron Judge goes 12 weeks between Yankee Stadium home runs, not part of it he's been out. But do you realize that since June 1, the Yankees are 24-39? They're terrible. They cannot hit.
No.
They can't hit. Now, it's like there's certain things that teams can't do. Like the team they played over the weekend, the Red Sox can't field. They're 30th in fielding percentage. I mean, good Lord. I mean, you're hoping for strikeouts. It's like, please. The more guys you can strike out, the better. Don't put it in play. And, it's, but yeah. And last night they had over 2,300 Bowman. It's the Yankees and the Tigers next year up at Bowman for the Little League Classic. So you'll get to see Torkelson. You'll get to see Volpe. Judge will be on the IL. Stanton will be on the IL.
Stanton's a given.
And Garrett Cole won't even make the trip. So, I mean, it's...
That's about right.
Other than that...
There's not much to...
Other than that...
I don't disagree with the word you said.
Quite the organization. I mean, right now, if you're saying, what's the more exciting organization? The Pirates are the more exciting organization. I like what they're doing.
Yeah, in terms of watching the team, absolutely.
I like what the Pirates are doing. Yeah, now, is their record better than the Yankees? No, but it's actually relatively close. But I like what they're doing. Young players, they're drafted well. The key is, can they keep the core group together? But that's another topic. Aaron Rodgers is going to play a preseason game against the Giants. He hasn't played a preseason game since 2018.
Yeah.
All right. Peter King wrote a great piece today on Football Morning in America on your guy, Kyle Shanahan, your guys.
Yeah.
Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch.
Uh-huh.
And it was a great piece that Peter wrote about talking with John Lynch about where he received advice along the way. And no matter what profession you're in,
Absolutely.
There are certain people that you talk to in your profession that have a profound effect on how you then think and either adjust or give you a perspective.
Yep.
Well, John Harbaugh did that for John Lynch, right? He said, "You need to retire. You're not good." No, I'm just kidding. He told him that when he and Ozzie Newsome were together, so there are a couple things that came up. One is keeping the scouts connected to the organization. So they'll see scouts every 6 months, whatever, and they're scouts, but they don't feel like they're a part of what's going on. So you know what they do now in Baltimore? Every 2 weeks, they do a Zoom meeting with John and the GM just to tell you, guys, how's everything going out there? Every 2 weeks. That way the scouts feel like they're connected to the building and to the program.
Yeah, part of it. Yeah, absolutely.
Right? The other part is about conviction. I think you need to listen closely because everybody knows you have none. Really? Metallica, the 49ers. I mean, those are your two convictions. Hey, and the way you do the show, you should be convicted.
That's right.
That was easy. But about convictions.
Yeah.
And this matches up. It was interesting because Tom Bradley and I were talking about this the other day. Tom, former defensive coordinator and, was the interim head coach here at Penn State. Tom and I were talking about this over the weekend. And when you talk with Joe Paterno, and there was an idea on the table, Joe may have agreed with your idea, but he would question your idea because he wanted to see your conviction for the idea. How deeply were you committed to it? Right? And if you were able to fire back with the answers with some conviction, he understood that. He says, you know what? He not only thinks it, he believes it. All right? Well, this goes now to John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. And John Lynch said that John Harbaugh told him that with the Ravens, they would take a look at personnel. And he said early on, Ozzie Newsome would come up with, this guy, this guy, this guy. And John would go, I don't like this guy at all. Right? And it would just kind of blow off what Ozzie thought. And conversely, John would be convicted about this guy, this guy. And Ozzie would be like, no. And he'd blow it off. He says, you know what? He says, and then he said, we decided, hey, look, wait a minute. If Ozzie deeply believed in a guy, and we look at this tape, same tape, just like it's like with anything, you can come to different conclusions all the time. He said, we'll ask each other questions, right? And if Ozzie really believes in the guy, I'll go with it. And if I really believe in the guy, Ozzie will then eventually go with me. He says, instead of going at loggerheads with one another, okay, like two rams on the mountain, he says, all right, let's work together. What do you like and why? Here's what I don't like. And can you see that? And here's what you like. Okay, you know what? I actually can see that. He says, and they work together on that on personnel, right? And you've had 12 quarterbacks in a year.
Yes.
So, but that's one of the reasons why they've been, look, the Ravens have been a success as an organization because they communicate, they keep their scouts in the loop, and they don't blow off somebody else's opinions. He says, I don't like them. The heck with this. I'm not even going to listen to you. Now they listen. They listen to each other as to why they have such deep-seated convictions about a player. He says, if it doesn't work, we've had the ability to move on to the next player. And Belichick's been great at that forever. Belichick has had the ability to move on to somebody else quickly when he just doesn't see it happening out there. And you see this in what the 49ers have done. To the credit of the 49ers, with all the injuries they've had at quarterback, and they have had a ton of injuries.
Yep.
I mean, what?
And that includes prior to last year. Yeah,
well, no, it's not just last year.
Yeah.
I think he's had, 6 different quarterbacks since he's been the head coach? 6 different starting quarterbacks?
Yeah, at least 6.
Right?
Yep.
One's a first-round pick. One's the last overall pick.
Yep.
There have been a couple of free agents in there, and then a couple of guys who were mid-round picks, and Garoppolo was a second-round pick. I know they traded for him. And Beathard was what?
Third at least.
Third-round pick out of Iowa?
Yep.
Yeah.
Same
and
year
Garoppolo, the Patriots drafted him in the second round.
Yep.
All right. And yet they've been able to somehow thrive. Now, here's where they made an adjustment, and this is where Lynch and Shanahan have been good about this. They've not been so convinced. Like, here's our philosophy. We want guys that can fly.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right? Well, then what happened? What did teams do?
Yeah, adjusted to it.
They get physical.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as often as we talk about Deebo Samuel and his speed, and Samuel has great speed, but he's physical as heck. Samuel is fast, but he's built, right? He's got that powerful body. He can break tackles. And if you try to jam him at the line of scrimmage,
not happening.
Okay, you can't move him.
Same with Kittle.
Right? Yeah, but Kittle's a tight end, okay? Samuel, Kittle's a tight end. You should not be able to move a tight end. You move a tight end, the tight end's not good.
No.
Okay? I'm talking about a guy that's a wide-out slot receiver, whatever. And so they changed their philosophy on draft by talking to each other about the kind of body structure they needed to go with the skills. Right? Instead of getting the sprinter, hand the baton and let him fly guy, those guys were getting bumped off routes left and right. You can't bump Deebo Samuel off a route. And that's one of the reasons why they use him so often in the backfield, and why he was getting a little like, hey, guys, come on. Well, why am I taking all this contact? Because, I mean, Deebo, no offense, but your build is...
he was the best option at running back.
You're the best option we got back there. Let's go.
And the physicality... not only drafting the guys, but it feeds down to the next guy. You're seeing it now with Ronnie Bell. Bell's just absolutely that physical guy is going to finish plays entirely, and he's absolutely become that complete receiver.
And he has speed, but Ronnie Bell does not have blazing speed.
No.
Okay? He's not slow.
Right.
He's not a pedestrian receiver. He's not a possession receiver, but he can move, but he's not a 4-4 guy.
Right.
Okay? But he'll fight for the football.
Yep.
Okay? He'll fight for the football.
Yep.
And that makes a big difference with guys. And that is, that's important. So they've changed, they've adjusted their thought process on what a wideout should be, and they did that together. So that's good, really good. And that's again, these are just certain things that the ability to adjust happens in everyday life.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my class this morning about this. And I said, name, image, and likeness. I said, when I talk to groups, I said, there are a lot of you that feel that, you get a scholarship, you go to college, you play football, basketball, whatever it happens to be, you get your degree. I said, but that's not the way life is in 2023. I said, there's name, image, and likeness. I said, you have 2 options here. You can either adapt to it and get involved or lose. Right? And so I was talking to them about their ability. I said, you're always adapting. I said, but you're allowing me up front here to adapt because I'm listening to what you have to say about what your likes and dislikes happen to be. I said, you can't just force what I like on you. I said, I'm not going to do that at all. I said, I want to hear what you guys like. And so you're always adapting, and that's what they're doing. I mean, you look at the short period of time. I mean, here, the ability to adapt. James Franklin has adapted. He's not coaching the same way he did 10 years ago.
No, you can't.
Right? There's certain standards as to how he coaches.
Yeah, the game itself doesn't change. Okay. But
he's looking for turnovers.
Sure.
He's looking to get turnovers. He's or takeaways. He's looking to get explosive plays. He's looking to keep the penalties down. Right? He's trying to do all of that are standards. But now how do you go about doing it? How do you go about doing it? What kind of offense? Their offense fits their personnel. Same thing with their defense. The defense fits the personnel. There are no square pegs, round holes. When you sit there and you're coaching it, you're looking around saying, okay, we can't do it this way because we don't have the personnel to do it this way. So how can we get the best out of them? If you notice, one of the adjustments they made last year was when Abdul Carter was up to game speed. When they went to that dollar package with 3 down linemen and 2 linebackers, it was Jacobs and Carter, and they wreaked all sorts of havoc out there. Early in the season, what were they doing? 6 defensive backs.
Yeah.
Okay? As the season went, right, and Carter developed, right? So Carter develops. They went to 5. Okay, that's adapting in season to your personnel. What's the best group we can put on the field as to what this situation happens to be? That includes looking at the big picture, like we're talking about the Niners with Deebo Samuel, that kind of physical receiver. Look at A.J. Brown.
Yep.
A.J. Brown has blazing speed, but he is built like a brick house. I mean, he is hard to move off the line of scrimmage. Okay. Now, Devontae Smith, okay,
strong wind.
Hurricane Hillary out on the West Coast would kind of move them off the spot a little bit, but they're different guys and different builds, and and that's where the game has changed in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and the other thing I think also, and it comes part to it, how you adapt, is also what you've seen out of the successful teams over the last 20 years. Their draft board is 7 rounds. They're not drafting somebody in the 5th round, 6th round to say, I'm not guaranteeing you're going to make the team. They're drafting people 1 through 7 saying, I'm not guaranteeing you're going to make the team, but I had you on the board for a reason. You're not just throwing picks on pick 6 and 7 in the 6th and 7th round. These guys have become starters on a lot of these teams. And that's why I think also what makes it, you adapt and adjust, yes, but you also... It's what makes you successful is how much you complete your team entirely. Right. You have holes, you fill those holes no matter what round it is. And I think that's what made the Steelers so successful and still makes them successful. Patriots, same thing. That's going down and out of what the 49ers are doing. Yeah, they're finding guys in the 6th and 7th round that are starting. And not only Brock Purdy, Jawan Jennings, Ronnie Bell's playing great in the preseason right now. Kittle was in the 5th round. Yep. Yeah, these are guys that are starters on your team. Some of them Pro Bowlers.
But the weird thing about it, sometimes it's strange. I can't remember a single thing.
No.
Single thing that George Kittle did against Penn State.
No.
0.
No.
And Kittle played against Penn State. I can't remember him doing anything against Penn State.
Nope.
That's why they went to look at this guy. I'm like, look at this guy. What? I watched him in a couple games. I'm like, he was invisible to me.
No.
He's maybe not Dallas Clark.
No.
Dallas Clark did
either.
things. Hawkinson did some things. Noah Fant didn't do much against Penn State.
Not against Penn State.
He didn't do much against Penn State at all. No. Hawkinson did a couple of really nice things. Remember in Beaver Stadium, he made that hurdle, right? Which is like, hey, okay, he's pretty athletic. Okay, that dude can play.
Yep.
Kittle did nothing against Penn State.
Not really.
Sitting there like going, so that he makes it to the 49ers. I'm thinking, and part of the great Iowa legacy at tight end. I watched the tapes going leading into the game. I didn't sit there going, hey, Jack, they got to stop Kittle. It's like, you talk to the Iowa people, he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I sit there, I watch the tapes, I did the games, I went, okay, I don't see it. Now he gets to the NFL, you're like, holy mackerel, this guy's good. This guy's really good. But against Penn State, he wasn't, for whatever reason.
Nope.
For whatever reason. But not a big opening week. No. But it's enough to whet the appetite to say, let's play ball.
Exactly.
And at least we get to talk about games.
Yeah.
We've talked so much realignment. Oh, mercy me. So much And look, it's a topic that excites a lot of people.
Yeah, it's going to, of course.
And because there's interest to it. And for example, I was asked about it in Hershey last week when I was speaking there. And there's a couple of angles to it. Number one, okay, it's intriguing to have Oregon and Washington in there because those are obviously have a chance to be two really good opponents, which I think increases the strength of schedule for everybody. At the same time, you do have to craft a schedule you have to craft a schedule. This is where the SEC, for the most part, has been pretty good. They understand how to craft schedules that give their top teams the best chance to get there.
Give them that break in November.
Yeah. And so, yeah. So you have to be careful as to how you schedule this.
Right.
That's why I thought the original schedule that came out when it was 16, where the top teams were playing 2 out of 3. I'm talking about the brands. That'd be, the top 4 brands are USC, Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan. And so 2 out of 3 were playing each other because the networks need you to play each other.
Absolutely.
They need the ratings. But you don't overload, like, hey, we're going to have somebody play all 3. You can't give them the, quote, murderer's row deal because you are trying to do something next year where you're trying to get 3, 4, who knows, 5 teams in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
Hey, so they were smart about doing that. Now, how do you do it with Washington and Oregon added in? And so I will say this, when the topic came up, and I hadn't even answered the question yet, I found the crowd's reaction to be really interesting. What do you think of realignment with Oregon and Washington coming in? And the crowd groaned before I answered. Went, oh, thought, wow, they didn't like it. Now this is, you're talking about a couple hundred people here, right? But you're always trying to, at least even by reaction, that was feedback. Yeah. That's feedback for me as to, wow, they are not enamored with this idea. So I did talk about that it made Lincoln Riley, Andy Enfield, Mick Cronin, Chip Kelly, Dan Lanning, Dana Altman, Kalen DeBoer, and Mike Hopkins. I said, their jobs all got more difficult starting next year. I said, conversely, okay, Jim Harbaugh, Juwan Howard, James Franklin, Mike Rhodes, Ryan Day, Chris Holtmann, their jobs also got more difficult because the competition level is going to be higher. And I pointed out to everybody there, I said, I know that people will look at schedules and they'll say, oh, man, it's a great schedule this year. I said, or it's like, oh, boy, I don't know. I wish they had some bigger games on there. I said, by adding these 2 in to go with USC and UCLA, the possibility of more, quote, perceived bigger games will be on everybody's schedules in the Big Ten. And you can still get to the college football playoff with 2 losses with a 12-team playoff. And should it go to, say it goes to 16, you can get there with 3 losses.
Yep.
And that is that's what I see with the additions. It's the management part of it, and I've harped on the management part of it for a long time. I've said it's not just brands, money, and markets. I said you have to be able to manage it, and I know that was a big concern for athletic directors. In other words, get USC and UCLA in and integrated. Let's see the solid parts of the plan as to how it plays out in real time, and let's see what needs to be tweaked in the plan in real time, right? Because it's not going to be perfect. And instead, because of the circumstances, they added in Washington and Oregon. Now, down the road, there'll be great additions, should be more money for everybody when the new contract comes up at the end of the decade. But you're now trying to do this with 4 schools. And it's, football has its difficulties in scheduling.
Sure.
Okay. Basketball has its difficulties in scheduling. The Olympic sports have big issues in scheduling because of the distance.
Absolutely.
Right? You can make things work in football. Mm-hmm. You can figure out a plan to do it. You can make things work in basketball. As I said, 3 home and aways and 14 one plays, and you've got 20.
Yep. And kind of pair them together at times. I think you can do that. Yep.
Yeah, hey, we're going to go out to Oregon and Washington this year. USC and UCLA is coming to your place. Okay.
Yep.
All right. And then next year you flip it. You go out to Los Angeles, Oregon, and Washington, come here. Whatever. Right? So you can make that work.
Right.
It's the other sports. How do you make that work? How do you make the travel somewhat reasonable? There's a lot of how do you do this? Some are allowed to charter. Some have to do commercial.
That's the biggest thing. And the budgets are not necessarily there as much with these other sports. That's the other thing to keep in mind.
Yeah. I think it's that's going to be it's not. You have a whole staff working on it.
Oh yeah.
But again, I would have liked to have seen idealistically, and it just didn't play out this way because realistically, all of a sudden you have Oregon and Washington sitting there, and they're free agents in less than a year, and there's no exit fee, right? They're both AAU schools. There's no exit fee, no grant of rights problem, and they say, hey, let's just get them now. And again, they're both AAU schools, which really helps.
Yeah,
and so you go from there. And they decided to make the move because they probably felt, I'm going to guess, this is a total guess, they probably felt, especially as university presidents, that they were going to bring him in before the decade was out anyway.
Right.
So might as well do it now.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good guess.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's...
Yeah, I'm the same way. I felt like ideally you could have tried to see how it was going to work with 16 before you got to 18. But yeah, when you have the opportunity to bring Washington and Oregon in, you're not going to turn it down. And you also know that the competition is ratcheted up at this point too with conference realignment. It really has. And you look at what the SEC has done with Oklahoma and Texas now getting into there. Yeah, the competition is going to be a little bit more intense. Yeah. You want to keep yourself as the premier conference, and that's absolutely, you have to do stuff like that, where you're bringing in teams, sometimes, some would argue prematurely, okay, but, and I think your point is valid. I think it's going to be...
One thing I said was valid.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the point
that scare the daylights out of it.
That's right. No, the point you made that they were going to be there at the end of the decade anyway. I think probably.
Yeah.
I think that's really where you look at it. And with the accreditation, yes, because I think despite the fact I'm not so sure they move the needle as matter of fact, I know they don't move the needle as much as they need to. I do think the Big Ten would consider Florida State, but I do think the accreditation, the AAU, is a big part of why you're not bringing them in right now. I think that's huge. And the same goes for Clemson.
But a question has to be asked. How big is too big?
Yeah. Yeah, how big is too big, and where are you going? Like, where's the direction going to go from a, not necessarily a college football perspective, but how big is too big for your conference, and how big is too big from a complete big picture of things, too?
So let me get... what I liked about the schedule they put out with 16 for football.
Yep.
In 4 years, you played everybody home and away.
Right.
See, that feels like a conference.
It feels like exactly what the NFL has successfully scheduled, and that's exactly what they were able to do.
Right.
So I think that's a big part of it.
Can you continue to do that with 18?
Yeah.
Right?
Good question.
You've got the last game figured out. It's Oregon playing Washington. Now, how do you schedule the other 8 Oregon games? How do you schedule the other 8 Washington games to then mix in with everybody else? And can you get everybody in a 5-year window playing home and away against each other? Instead of 4, in a 5-year window playing home and away against each other. Can you do that? Because it feels that way, at least you have conference.
Yeah.
It goes back to the 20 I said in college basketball, 3 home and aways and 14 one plays. At least you play everybody.
Yeah.
Right? And that gives a conference feel to it and not a regional feel to it. Where all of a sudden you go to the Big Ten tournament and you're like, wow, so...
we haven't seen Washington yet.
Wow, I'm Washington kid. That 7-footer is pretty agile, isn't he? How about that?
Exactly.
You mean Washington, like Syracuse, plays a 2-3 zone? Really? Wow, I didn't realize Mike Hopkins would do that. Of course he is. So, and the... that's what you want to keep, that feel that it is still a conference. So the question then becomes, it's great to have that Florida market and this. Look, you're getting a lot of money.
Yeah. I was going to say.
Okay, you're now a national conference. Well, the SEC is getting a lot of money, and they're a region. They're the Southwest and the Southeast. Okay, you don't have to be everywhere.
No,
you're on national TV.
No.
You already are in everywhere.
Exactly.
So I think you have to then add, because my point before Washington and Oregon, I still believe this, they had the right 16 schools.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think you made USC very, very happy having 16.
Oh, God.
Because you pretty much have nothing against UCLA. They can out-recruit UCLA. I think Riley is as good as anybody with recruiting. I think that, to me, you're going to have USC now having competition out west, where you're going to have Oregon and Washington out there.
In particular, Oregon.
Absolutely.
Oregon's the one that's driven USC nuts.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought we put those guys in the rearview mirror.
Exactly.
Great.
Not so much now.
No, not so much now. But... you're going to be on Fox, CBS, and NBC.
Yeah. Doesn't get any bigger.
Everybody in the country can see you.
Yep.
Right? And let's face it, in this world of cable shedding and so forth that's going on, cord cutting, people aren't cord cutting Fox, NBC, CBS, or ABC.
A lot of times, yeah.
Okay? I didn't say ESPN. I said ABC.
No.
ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox are not being cut. People are. It's part of your basic everything you get.
Yeah. And everybody's streaming is going to get. You Paramount. You're going to get CBS. You're going to get NBC with Peacock. You're going to get it. There's absolutely.
All right. So you can get all that still. All right. And they're on national networks.
Right.
That's why, for example, when ESPN finally does get the Super Bowl, which is, 4 years from now? I think.
I think it's 3 or 4, yeah.
It's going to be on ABC.
Yeah.
It's not just going to be on ESPN. It's going to be on ABC and ESPN. It's going to be on both. Because they know they have to put it on, like they do the NBA Finals. What are the NBA Finals on?
ABC.
ABC. Mm-hmm. And I've said for years, I always felt one of the mistakes with the college football playoff was they didn't put the championship game on ABC.
Yeah.
No, by making exclusive, it's great for cable. Oh, for goodness sakes, I'm trying to get eyeballs.
But it's not. Yeah, you're trying to get now. No, absolutely.
What made a huge difference in the women's national championship game this year? LSU and Iowa.
Yeah.
Okay, what was the big difference we can talk about Angel Reese, we can talk about Caitlin Clark, but what was the other difference maker? The game was on ABC.
Yeah, ABC, yeah.
It was not exclusively on ESPN.
Right. Yep.
So you're already going to be a nationally viewed conference at noon, 3:30 and 7:30.
No matter the time, absolutely.
Because like the NFL, you're on over-the-air TV. Okay?
Which is why we've never seen the Super Bowl on cable TV. I mean, that's a huge reason. They know. I mean, the NFL is not. The NFL is multi-billion-dollar and growing because they know.
Well, TNT hasn't had the NBA Finals.
Nope. Nope, and they won't.
No, they will not.
Yeah. They'll have the conference finals. They're not going to have
the conference finals. That's each one is a conference final. TNT gets one, and ESPN, they rotate each year as to who gets one. But when it comes to the finals, it's on ABC.
ABC, yeah.
And that is a big difference. Now, the Final Four, now you've got TNT rotating in.
Yeah.
And the power of the North Carolina Duke game, it was on, people forget, it was on TNT. It was not
on CBS.
On CBS. Nope. And they got huge numbers. They got better numbers last year on TNT because it was North Carolina Duke as opposed to Florida Atlantic and San Diego State. And I say that with all due respect to Florida Atlantic, which is in Penn State's tournament in Orlando. Love you guys.
Yeah.
All right. Remember Frank Gardenia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Frank's daughter works at Florida Atlantic, the athletic department. Yeah.
All right.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
But that's not an intriguing national game. It doesn't bring in the casual fan.
No.
Duke of North Carolina, it may have been on TNT, but it brought in the casual fan. They got great rating. Now, the other Final Four on TNT did not. It was well below CBS. But Duke of North Carolina,
massive.
Right? That's the bailout of all bailouts.
Absolutely.
Right? Ernie Johnson sitting there going, this is great. Even Chuck.
Potentially Coach K's final game.
Right.
Yeah,
Chuck sitting there like,
there's no doubt that was huge.
Yes, gigantic.
Well, it ended up being his final game. But that was huge. The advantage TNT has just a little bit, and I say a little bit because it's not ABC, it's not NBC, it's not CBS. You do have TBS for the most part on a lot of the over-the-airs, which will help a little bit, but it's still...
And when they did it was TNT, TBS, they did a combo. So
that's going to help a little bit, but it's not going to be national network to where your big three are. Not anywhere close.
We're in an interesting transition period in the country in a lot of ways. So at one point, ESPN had 100.1 million subscribers. Okay, now it's 73 million. And it's happened in a short period of time. Now, 73 million, by the way, is still a significant number of households. Okay, let's not diminish the power of 7. There's so much concentration on the 27 million that have left.
Big time.
Which does show a trend, but 73 million is still a great number to have.
Pretty darn good. Yeah.
Okay. So streaming comes up. But we're not quite there on streaming yet.
No. On no stream.
Okay. Where are broadcast networks losing their shirts right now? They are not losing their shirts on cable.
Right.
They're getting less money from cable, but they're still profiting from cable. Not to the extent they were 5 years ago.
Yep.
But where are they all losing their shirts?
Yeah,
they're all losing their shirts on streaming. CBS is losing a boatload on Paramount Plus.
Right.
NBC is losing a boatload on Peacock. And Disney is getting crushed.
Disney's getting crushed more than 3, And
right? They're getting crushed. Right? And they keep saying streaming is the future. Okay? And
Could
please
be.
And okay, now everybody bear with me on this.
Yeah.
It's like, for example, the world of electric cars.
That's
EVs.
right on. I was thinking the same thing.
It's like the world of electric cars and EVs. And and follow me on the reason here. Don't get political. Do not get political with me.
I already agree 100% with you.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. 7% of the country right now drives an EV.
Right.
93% don't of those who own vehicles. The length of time it takes to charge an EV 5 years from now probably is going to be exponentially less. They'll be better at it. but they're not there yet.
They're not there yet. No.
Right? Want to take a trip?
Yeah.
How long does it take to charge the thing up? It takes you like 6 minutes to fill it up with gas.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Oh, for goodness sakes, come on, let's go. Here, you want to go? Go over to the EV charging station. Okay.
Yeah, let's watch a
movie. Okay. Season 4, Jack Ryan's almost over.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're not there yet on the technology.
No, we're not there in price either. Yeah.
No, we're not. No, and where has Ford, for example, Ford, which has thrown a lot into EVs, lost $1.5 billion. Mm-hmm. So now let's go back to streaming. See, I'm just trying to parallel them. This is not a political discussion at all. No,
it's a great point.
Okay, this is just
it's spot on.
Okay, you have to have the ability, everybody, in my opinion, to have common sense discussions without emotion.
Without time.
Okay, there's no. This has nothing to do with politics.
No, it's not politics. No, it's perfect point.
I'm just talking about time and where we are in the transition. Maybe in 30 years, we're all electric vehicles and loving it.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we're not, but right now we can't all do it.
No.
Right. Same thing with streaming. You can't. Not everybody's streaming. Not everybody wants to stream. Enough people still want to watch cable and over the air, and that's why you've seen networks, leagues or conferences, NFL, Big Ten, dip their toe into streaming.
Right.
Okay. Thursday Night Football for the NFL on Amazon. Last year, the goal was to get 12.5 million subscribers to watch it. They ended up with an average of 9.7, which, by the way, is excellent.
Good. Yeah.
But it didn't meet the goal.
Right.
Because not everybody got on board with it. We'll see if the number stays the same or goes up this year. It's going to be very interesting to see. They have a little bit better schedule, but we'll see. The Big Ten, I think it's 8 games on Peacock and 37 basketball games on Peacock. Let's see how it goes. Right? Does Peacock end up getting a lot more subscribers? Now, and don't include, for example, you really can't include like the opening night Penn State plays West Virginia. That's on NBC
that's
and
on
Peacock.
Both. Yeah,
it's on both.
Delaware would be the comparison.
Delaware is exclusive Peacock. That will be one that will tell you something. Ohio State has one game there exclusively, and Michigan has East Carolina.
East Carolina, yep.
Right, on Peacock. All right. Then later, like when they're on CBS with the Iowa game in prime time, Paramount Plus is also carrying that.
Right.
But you're
also on.
You're on the big one. You're on CBS. So you're seeing leagues, I think, being smart about the usage of streaming at this point and not going all in. MLS went all in. Apple Plus, Apple TV Plus. The Pac-12 dissolved because when they were presented with nothing but streaming from Apple Plus, everybody looked around and says, what broke up the Pac-12 in the end was that deal.
Agreed.
Washington immediately said, where's the linear option?
Yep.
Because what do coaches need? Kalen DeBoer said it straight out. What do coaches need? I need to have people see my product.
Yeah.
I need to have people see my program. I can't just have them subscribe to it. I need to have people go around the dial and go, oh, that looks like a good game. Well, hey, Washington's pretty good, but right? James Franklin doesn't have that problem. All his games are on. Here we go. The entire country can watch them, and a lot of people do. I mean, they're right around. How many times are they over 4 million viewers a year? They're one of the top 9 most watched programs in the country. They've been as high as 4th. Last year, when you added in the Rose Bowl, they were 6th.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay. But that's people need to see it because right now, a streaming only deal doesn't do it.
No.
And the Pac-12 dissolved and lost everybody when they were presented with a streaming only deal, and everybody looked around and said, well, we can't make it with just this in 2023, 24, 25, 26, 27. We can't make it. Right? Nobody's going to, the number of subscribers we're going to have.
Yep.
Okay, and the goals to get there, we're going to get to 5 million subscribers. You're not going to get to 5 million subscribers. You want to know why? Okay, I saw your ratings for your games on over-the-air and linear TV. The number of games the Pac-12 had over 4 million viewers last year was on one hand.
Yep.
Right? And that includes USC Notre Dame.
Max of that USC, yep.
Right?
Yeah.
That's any game.
Yeah.
So Oregon, I think Oregon played Georgia last year, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, that game was over the top, right? The game between Notre Dame and USC went over 4 million. But if you're sitting here saying we need 5 million subscribers, I'm sitting there going, we've got a handful of games that cleared 4 last year. We're not going to get to 5 million subscribers.
Nope.
And if you're another team going to play them, you're like going, we're on Apple TV Plus? I'm not so sure I want to do that. I'm not sure I want to schedule them.
Yeah.
To go out and play, because you're at the mercy of their TV network when you play them on the road. Do I want to schedule them if I'm only going to be on Apple TV Plus? Right. I mean, I'm talking about today in 2023.
Right now. Yeah, absolutely.
No.
Not a chance.
I mean, for all this talk about Messi, I've only seen him in highlights on SportsCenter.
Yeah, and I think soccer and streaming is a good combination right now because they're similar. With all due respect to soccer, I think it has grown as a sport. I think as a youth sport, it has grown tremendously. But I think, to me, in America, it's not there. It's not there yet.
No.
It really isn't. And I think so that's why MLS can do it and get away with it, because you really don't have as much to lose as these other, obviously college football, any kind of conference or any kind of major sport has, as much as MLS. MLS can afford to do it because the viewership just isn't there yet. This as a whole, it's just not there yet. It could be there by the time streaming gets around. You just never know. But from an MLS perspective, they got the luxury of Messi. That helped a lot, yes. But no, it's just, as a country, it's just not there yet. And that's why I think MLS streaming, it's different, because I think they can afford to do it.
You cannot force on the public what you want to do.
No.
You can't do that. So in other words, we're going to go now for the Pac-12, that's the best they could come up with. Okay, so let's be honest about that. But they turned down a linear deal. Last October. From ESPN at $30 million per school. They would still, they would go to the next deal, and they would have had all 10 intact.
Right.
Okay. If somebody hadn't said we should get 50, right? Our value is 50. Over here on the back, you want to know who assigns your value? The person offering. It's okay to negotiate.
Sure.
Okay, go when we want 50. No, hey, okay, well, let's talk here. Okay, if we come in with an offer of 40, where can we negotiate to? Right? Should have, instead of saying we want 50, you want 50. ESPN looked at it, you want what? Right? And that's when it got shut down.
Right.
Right? And again, we go back to the comparison, just the parallels of EVs. Right? It's being pushed. People aren't buying them.
No.
Okay, there's some. I mean, there aren't it's not like there are none on the road. There are more on the road than there were before, and they look like they're really nice vehicles. But there's still too many bugs to be worked out in it.
That's absolutely.
I mean, how much does it cost to replace a lithium battery?
Yeah.
Right. Just like you're sitting there at home going, okay, now I'm streaming Amazon Prime here.
Yeah.
I got to hit how many buttons to get over
exactly.
Here?
And when there is that,
I'm starting to sound like the old guy now. I got to hit how many buttons? What am I doing?
But that also ties to the older audience is going to say, hey, we've got an option on standard cable that we can watch, or standard network TV we can watch. So let's watch that. I'm not going into streaming yet.
So just like you're gradually bringing EVs in,
absolutely.
If you're smart about as an entity, conference or a league of gradually bringing streaming in, but right now, like Ford losing $1.5 billion on EVs, CBS, NBC, and Disney are losing their shirts on streaming right now. And I'm talking, when I mean lose your shirts, I'm talking to the tune of nine figures per year. You can't keep absorbing 9-figure losses. Not 7, not 8.
No.
9. And I don't mean it's just barely over 9. It's halfway. Some of these are halfway between 9 and 10 figure losses.
Yep.
That's a lot.
Yep.
Boy, you're about the only one I know that could absorb that.
I might be able to. Yeah, that's.
You see, and that's what I admire about you. You still drive that small car. You still wear T-shirts.
Still drive that small car with the check engine light. That's right.
Right, and you wear these T-shirts, and you're loaded beyond words.
That's right.
All right, and it's just I admire your common man approach.
Darn right.
You're just one of the people. Meanwhile,
man of the people.
I mean, meanwhile, people don't realize how many homes you have. 6, 7?
Yeah, about 7 or 8. I lose track after a while.
Look, don't brag.
Cal, by the way, played Hawaii in 2016. Our internet came to life.
There you go. I finally got one right. It was in Australia, right?
Yep.
Well, I guess we're done for today.
Yeah, how about that? Yeah, we are. Man, that went quick.
That went fast.
It did.
Yeah. All right. So we'll talk to you tomorrow. Got a lot going on. And we're up to week 0.
Yes.
Nothing like week 0.
That's right.
Here on Seven Mountains Media.